Good morning, good day, and good evening. I'm, as always, your host, Brody Robertson, and today we are taking a break from the Game Developer Podcast, and we have someone on who I had planned to bring on. When did I reach out to you? It's got to be at least like 2 years ago, yeah? Something
2
like that.
years ago, I think. Yeah.
So,
I'm sometimes bad with email. That happens.
understandable. Well, I think I reached out to you on Mastodon originally, and
Mhm.
yeah, I get it. It's totally fine. I probably should have
And then
like reached out
I
earlier. Then.
changed instances, and then, like, stuff got weird. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Veronica Explains. That's your name.
Hi!
Probably should have said
That's my
that.
name. That's my legal name.
Mhm, mhm. So, for anyone who maybe doesn't know who you are, briefly explain who you are and what you do.
Well, my name is Veronica, and I do, a YouTube and PeerTube, uh channel called Veronica Explains, where I explain things, and it's mostly Linux and vintage tech topics.
Mhm,
So I shoot for like 75%. This will help you in your Linux experience.
mhm.
And 25%, this is entirely pointless unless you're a vintage tech nerd.
Uh-huh.
And so that I'm hoping that I'm hitting that benchmark pretty
Mhm,
well.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, I every so often, like, I'll just get a recommendation. Like, it was just usually be a recommendation for some random video from like a year or two ago you put out. It's like, oh, here's just a video on a Commodore 64. Like, okay, I don't have one. I'll watch it. Sure, why not? Let's see what's going on here.
Absolutely. No, it's exciting. It's an exciting time for Commodore people. So it's more thrilling than Linux some days. So, which is funny.
Can you get into that? What do you mean it's an exciting time for Commodore people? Are people doing a lot of
Well,
like mods
okay.
for them and stuff?
Yeah, so people are doing mods, but like the big news, the big scuttlebutt is that a YouTuber actually who goes his YouTube channel's retro recipes.
Mhm,
He goes by the name Perifractic,
mhm,
and he's like an actor, does like Hollywood stuff.
mhm.
He just bought the Commodore brand.
Right.
Like, just bought it with, it's I don't know the financial details, I
Sure,
don't
sure,
wanna get
sure.
into the financial details because like, he's working with a bunch of people and, hoping it sounds like to revive the Commodore brand and do new things with it,
Okay.
and, we're very early days, so, like, I don't have strong opinions on it because, like, this is all just getting started. But it's exciting because people are excited, and I think that's awesome.
Mhm.
There's gonna be a new Commodore 64 coming out from this whole thing. Yeah, exactly.
Like a
Um,
a new board of the old system is
yep. So, here, I'm just gonna reach. So I got my Commodore 64 here that
ah
I use for, like, everything. It's my favorite computer. And this thing has the board from, like, the '80s in it.
right, right.
Well, a bunch of people over the years have created, like, FPGA,
Mhm.
uh, chips to replace certain parts, and, like, it's really cool, and a few people have done the entire system on an FPGA board. If you're familiar with the Mister project, that's a way you can get Commodore 64 experience, but like on a modern set of hardware with USB controllers and stuff.
Mhm,
It
mhm.
sounds like this thing is going to be one of those, but with more direct connection to vintage peripherals. So like if you really like the paddle controllers, you should be able to work with the paddle controllers for
Mhm,
those
mhm.
games. If you liked that original joystick, that should be a thing that works. Just all sorts of cool stuff. And like I have like cartridges for the Commodore 64
Mhm, mhm.
that I use in like music making, and that stuff will work. And so I mean it's kind of cool. I like what I see.
Mhm.
We'll see how it turns out. You know, we're still very early days on it. And I don't think I've ever heard of a YouTuber buying computer brand before. So that might be uncharted territory. So,
Not a
we'll see.
notable one. I'm sure it's surely had to have happened before, but nothing as notable as the Commodore brand. That's definitely for sure.
Absolutely. I know one of the things is like, they don't own the Amiga brand. I keep saying he like it's just him, but
Right,
there's
right.
a few people involved.
Sure, sure, sure.
Um, and some of them are notable, like, former Commodore employees, which is kinda cool. But they haven't bought Amiga yet, and, I'm kinda curious to see if they can make that happen,
Mhm,
because if they can reunite the Commodore brand and the Amiga brand together under the Commodore roof, that's gonna be kinda cool. So I'm excited to see where they go with it, but, like, we're still very early days.
mhm, mhm. I am I obviously, I'm aware of the whole Commodore brand and Commodore 64 and all this. That's well before my time.
Sure,
My first home system. Well, my parents didn't really care about computers, so I don't think we had a
sure.
computer until about 2007. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Um, the first home system we had was a Vista system. I've used earlier, like my school at the time had XP systems. I had
Sure.
friends who had like, Windows 2000 systems. But why is it that you want to, like, obviously, I'm sure there's some nostalgia for older hardware there, but why is it that you want to be, interested? What's your interest in this actually coming from? Why do you have any interest in, Commodore 64? Because a lot of people would consider this hardware, you know, obsolete at this point.
Well, sure. And so a couple of a few things with it. Like,
Mm,
the Commodore 64 is before my time too, just
sure,
to be
sure,
clear.
sure, sure.
Like, I know, sometimes people ask me how old I am, and it's like I'm an age. Um it's good. But the Commodore 64 is actually older than me,
Mhm,
but I had systems of this vintage around as a kid. Either my friends had, like, in the case of the Commodore 64, my friends had Commodore 64s lying around and we would
right,
play the
right.
games. And so that's, in terms of figuring out how a system works,
Mm,
figuring out, like, if you think about the Commodore 64, when you open up, or when you turn on the Commodore 64, you're greeted with a prompt that says ready, and there are commands there
mm,
that you have to type in order to get anything done. And forgive me if this doesn't sound a little familiar,
mhm,
as somebody who does system administration. Like, this it there's a similarity in scope, but the
mhm,
difference, the Commodore 64 came out after Unix. It's older than Unix.
mhm,
And so it's not fair to say this directly inspired the Linux world, but there are certain things that I think mesh well together.
mhm.
Like, yeah, I think about the idea that back in the day, the software was often copied and redistributed. And,
Right, it would be
say what,
common for, a magazine to have code written in it that you would just type into the system, and that's how you would load a game into it.
in other words, the source was available.
Mhm.
And I think that that influenced some folks 10, 15, 20, 25 years later, as they were developing our modern free and open source world,
Mhm.
that, like, hey, this kind of reminds me of that. And
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
that that's a big chunk of the motivation. The other motivation for some of this, like, especially the 8-bit era, is you have direct access to everything. It's like, if there's a user port on this thing, and if I want to run a command to send voltage through one of the pins, I can do that.
Mhm.
That's kinda challenging on a modern computer. Like, it's not impossible, there's systems for that, and there's external boards to connect to a breadboard or whatever,
Right,
but, like,
yeah, but
on
you're
this,
not really doing it with, like, a full-on, AMD system with, like, some crazy Intel chip. If you're doing that with modern hardware, you're talking about, like, small embedded systems for the most part.
yeah, you're
Or, like,
getting super,
really complex kernel code.
exactly. No, and this thing, you're just, like, right there. You're sitting on top of it, and that has some excitement to me,
Mm,
and I think it has some excitement to a lot of other people in the Linux community, and I think there tends to be some shared vibe between the 2, and I think that has a good amount of it. Like, I think that explains it a bit.
mm. So, what's some of the fun stuff that you can actually do with a Commodore 64 nowadays? 'Cause I'm sure there's tons of mods that are available for them at this point.
Oh,
People
absolutely.
fully understand how this system works and do a lot of really cool things with them. So, what's some of the stuff that can be done with them?
Well, I just did a video, not to plug my video,
Go
but,
right ahead.
I'm a plug my video. I just made a video about, an HDMI mod
Mm.
for the Commodore 64 that replaces the aged, out of date RF modulator that,
Uh, RF
you would
modulator.
basically. Yeah, so the RF modulator, a lot of older systems, the Nintendo had this, the Super Nintendo had this. If you think about a television in the 80s had, in many cases, the only input would be the antenna.
Mm, mm,
And so what you would do is you would use a RF modulator to basically create a small little broadcast studio inside your Commodore 64 or your
right.
Nintendo or your Super Nintendo. And it would send out the signal into basically your antenna port on the TV,
Mhm,
and you could use that to get your video and audio. Well, nowadays with the proliferation of wireless devices and the
mhm.
changing of the wireless spectrum, that port is for a lot of people, it's basically useless. Like, when
Yeah.
I plug this in, it's garbage. I can't get anything off of that port.
Right, there's too
And there
much,
are other.
like, wireless noise in the area, it gets disrupted.
Exactly.
Mhm, mhm,
And so it ends up interfering with the stuff, and
mhm,
and so what we do is what this mod does is you remove the RF modulator and you replace it with an HDMI port,
mhm,
and the board actually has an FPGA on it that replicates the video chip. And so it
mhm,
gets the same signal off of the video chip, like literally the same voltages, the same information.
mhm,
And it just replicates what the video chip would be sending out to composite video, the older style,
mhm.
but over an HDMI port. And then you can just plug it into a modern screen and just use your Commodore 64 like you would any other console today. It makes it
Mhm,
as
mhm.
easy to use one of these as something like a PlayStation 5,
Right.
and that it's actually easier because this doesn't require an internet connection.
Yeah, yeah, that is a the state of modern gaming is something for sure. Um, so with that little FPGA, does it effectively work kinda like how, uh, an upscaler would work, where you would convert the from the
Ye
original source
y
into H.
So in this case, it's a little bit more simplistic than
Mm,
that. It's not. It's basically replicating
mm,
the source instead of doing something with the original, like, composite.
right.
So, but you're basically thinking right. It does some basic integer scaling to get it up to 1080p or
Sure, sure,
whatever,
sure.
but, there are scalers that you can use, but, like, one of the problems with the Commodore 64 is that it doesn't output RGB video.
Okay.
At least not natively. Yeah, it's really kinda weird because of when it was created, and they were designing this to a price point.
Sure, sure.
And so they didn't include some of the features that became standard. So it's not as easy as, like, "Oh, I have a CRT, Imma plug my Commodore 64 into it." Like, the nicest video one of these can give you is something that's really close to S video,
Mhm.
and S video's kinda bad when you compared, even, you go 5 years after this and you got VGA as a standard.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
It's and the video, you can do so much more with it. I can buy the most fancy scaler imaginable for the Commodore 64, and it still kinda looks muddy without modding it.
Right, right.
And that's just because they designed it to a price point. You
Sure,
know,
sure.
it's they wanted it to be, and that might have been Commodore's ultimate failure, is designing things to a price point that, there's a whole we could go on and on for hours about the idea that they lost to Apple
Mhm.
because they didn't want to redesign their floppy drive to be faster.
Uh-huh.
Like, because they wanted the floppy drive to sell, like, they were really good at selling computers.
Mm.
That doesn't necessarily mean they designed the best computers, and a lot of folks, argue vociferously about that. But
Yeah,
no, it's a lot of fun. I
yeah,
I I have a good time with it.
yeah, look, I was just having a look at their sales numbers. Yeah, they definitely were good at selling them. That's certainly true. And,
Well, and it's
ooh, go
you think about at the time,
mhm,
like, so my family was more of an IBM family by
mhm,
the time I was old enough to have computer. My first computer that we had in the house that was like a decent, like a computer you could actually get work done on, was an IBM Aptiva, which there's a whole backstory with IBM and Microsoft, and Microsoft being mean to IBM when Windows 95 came out, and it's a great story. But we had the IBM Aptiva,
mhm,
which could it from a what it could do perspective was significantly bigger.
mhm,
We think about the difference in 10 years of computing. 10 years ago, computers were almost as powerful as today in terms
yeah,
of consumer stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, you can make the point about, like, AI and
Sure, sure,
or
sure.
so-called AI, but, like, beyond that, it's all really boring now. It's more iterative.
As someone
But
very
this
much
was
in the gaming space, I fully agree with this. If you look at games that came out in 2015 compared to games that come out now, in some
Mhm,
ways you can argue there's been sort of a downgrade in graphics, as there's been sort of a shift in focus away from sort of stylistic usage of graphics technology into
sure.
chasing hyper realism. So it's kind of like taking a downgrade, as they've been like chasing these like very impressive realistic lighting techniques and things like that. But for
Yeah,
the average user, like Word 2015 and Word 2025 and the power of the system that a regular user is gonna really use, unless you're doing like
right,
video rendering, things like that, for the average person, like you can get by with a 10-year-old laptop and it'll be fine. The battery
oh,
might be
totally.
dying, but that's the only
Mhm.
problem it'll have.
It's amazing how different it is now than it was back then, where 2 years was a generation,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
it felt like it. Like, the leap from, 8-bit to 16-bit to 32-bit to 64-bit it was like a flash.
mhm, mhm,
Like, it was just so incredible. And, I was just a kid, but, like, learning about computing during that time period was like, you couldn't keep up, and that was a good thing. Like, it always gave you more and more and more stuff to learn, and it felt very immersive. And I think to a certain extent, the hardware side just feels boring right now. Like, it's a slight amount of chasing some kind of benchmark, but, like, unless you care about, like, encoders or something, I don't know what people are doing buying a new graphics card every 2 years. Like, why
mhm.
bother?
Video games raising their performance requirements, basically. That's
Yeah,
that's effectively it. Or, um, yeah, I don't have enough. I don't have anything else. That's pretty much it.
it's just amazing how it just feels different. Like, I remember playing MechWarrior 2
Mhm,
for the first time,
mhm, mhm,
and, I went from, games like Mario. We're talking very pixely, very, straightforward, linear gameplay to
Mhm, mhm.
this kind of big. It wasn't quite open world, but it felt like it.
Mm, mm,
But like the I remember being so thrilled with, like, polygon rendering and the 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 idea that I can turn in the game and there's parallax scrolling and all, like, and that was so new,
mhm, mhm.
and I just don't see that out of like, nothing wows me.
Right, right.
You know, I don't know when we're gonna get to, we might not get back to that. I don't know. It kinda makes it boring, like, I see, "Oh, there's a new Doom, big whoop," you know?
Yeah, like, when Doom 26 yeah, Doom 2016, that's when the remake came out. When that came out, I was like,
Mhm.
"Wow, this looks really impressive," and it's like, it was it did feel like a Doom game. It legitimately was bringing Doom into the modern era,
Absolutely.
and I think the last time I was genuinely impressed by the look of a game, probably when the PlayStation 4 came out, I reckon, which at this point is a good 10 or so years ago.
Right.
Like, I think we've you know, racing games, for example, they used to be a really pinnacle of how amazing rendering could be because you usually have these really big budgets and then massive car companies really wanted their cars to look
Right.
as close to real as possible. So you would see like a new Gran Turismo game or a Forza game, and every time it was just like, this is amazing looking. And now it's
Sure.
just like, that's a car.
Yep. That's exactly it. No, I think it's just kinda boring, and I think, like, one of the things about, like, people are still making new games on for these older systems,
Mm.
like, I know, like, with the Amiga, I have, like, 6 new games I need to try out that I got on, I think Itch recently,
Can you give me
and,
an example of a name? I am not
well,
a.
one of them I've actually played, so I can speak to it, is
Okay.
called Turbo Tomato,
Okay.
and, that one I really like. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of a, puzzle get through game,
Mm, mm,
like,
mm.
it reminds me a little bit of Frogger. It's but, like, it's new and it's exciting, and somebody came up with it, and it's got a new, um like, it feels good because it's new stuff,
Right, right,
but
right.
it plays on original hardware. Like, I don't need an emulator to play it, although I can play it on an emulator,
Mhm,
but,
mhm,
like, it's awesome on the Amiga. I can sit and, play on it all day long.
mhm, mhm.
um and that's just a ton of fun that people are still doing that and discovering new things that these things can do. I That's inspiring because, if people can figure out ways to make this ancient tech that has no internet, no sort of, like, modern paradigm,
Mhm.
if people can figure this stuff out, that's an exercise in the brain power, and
Mm.
that's something that I find inspiring.
I do think there's definitely something interesting about having such like low level access to the computer that you just don't really get anymore. And there's a reason for that. Like it's very difficult to port older games because you're writing them directly for the hardware. It makes
Oh,
sense
sure.
why we've gone down this route of drivers and the hardware's gotten considerably more complex. If you had to directly control the GPU for a modern game, good luck with that
Yeah,
one.
absolutely. Well,
But
and
for,
some of this, I think some of it might be that we have, like, there's basically 2 processor architectures right
mm,
now.
mm,
Just thinking about the logistics of it, like, if you look at the way you assembled a program
mm,
in the 1980s, it was exceptionally different because, like, it wasn't a simple matter to port a game from an Amiga to an Atari to a Commodore 64 to an IBM PC. Like, all of these different architectures had different needs.
right, it was
And
effectively a new game at that point.
yeah, exactly. And it felt like it. And it's kind of, I think that forced people to get creative in a way that maybe they don't have to today.
Mm,
It's a little bit more monolithic, although it's not technically a monolith, but it's a little bit more monolithic in terms of how we work on that stuff. And like I'm not an engineer, so I don't get into the ins and outs of that directly, but like I think that the constraint of a limited platform
mhm,
gave your brain more stuff to do.
mm,
And I think that that process maybe created really interesting stuff.
mhm, mhm.
And I think more people should develop under constraints. I think that it's a fun exercise.
Yeah.
It's like when I make music and I decide I'm only going to play this one guitar,
Mhm.
I'm not going to go grab 15 other
Right,
instruments
right.
from my, like it forces me to think.
Yeah, one thing I'll often say is limitation breeds creativity, and that's sort of a problem that we have not just in the games industry, but in just programming in general. You have these incredibly powerful systems that you can
Sure.
really do anything you want with at this point, and that sort of creates a situation where you can do anything, but what do you do with it, right? It's like
Right.
when you're dealing with something that's considerably slower, like one of these systems, you do have to like how do you fit a game into the limited storage and limited memory you get on something like a Commodore 64? You actually have to
64 kilobytes.
yeah, you actually have to think about how your game is laid out to make that actually work.
Yep. 100%. No,
Uh,
it's kind of fun too because like people come up with creative solutions to solve those problems.
mhm,
I
mhm,
saw like on the VIC 20 games are often cartridge games.
mhm, mhm,
And a nice thing about a cartridge game is you can typically include additional like memory inside the game,
mhm, mhm,
but you're limited by like mapping capabilities and physical space and the like there's all kinds of fun constraints that you have to work around,
mhm,
and like you said, limitation breeds creativity. I think that that's exactly what it is, and I think sometimes we lack that, and I think it's nice to be on a platform that incorporates it.
mhm. So what else tends to grab your interest?
um a lot of things grab my interest.
Mm.
So like uh are we talking about just computers, or are we talking about more general,
If you want to
like
go
what
general, you can go general if you want to.
well, I'm really into music.
Hmm.
Like I always have been. I've been a musician since I was 5 years old. And just any instrument that I can find, I try to pick it up and I try to figure it out. And
Do you have something you tend to gravitate towards the most?
well, my brain thinks in guitar.
Mm.
Like I picked up guitar as a teen, and like I clicked with the guitar. I think it's got a there's an opposites thing here with the part of me that really likes computers. Guitars are all like organic.
Mm.
Like it's very like you can have the same model guitar and you can have 4 different physical specimens of it, and they'll all feel different.
Mm.
Like, and I think that's kinda you don't see that with computers as much. So, I think that's kind of fun, and, I very much enjoy that whole world. There's a whole, like, music YouTube is kind of a trip,
Mm.
and it's a little different. I don't know how much music YouTube you watch, but,
Usually on the consumer side rather than the creation side.
okay, yep. I do, you get, YouTubers who are talking about like the art of making music
Mm.
and the equipment involved with it, and like there's some similarities with like TechTube,
Mhm.
but there's a different sort of vibe with it that I find to be fascinating. And
Mm.
like like one of the like 2 I'll call out 2 YouTubers who I really like, who I think exemplify this really well. And one of them is Pat Finnerty,
Mhm.
who he does a channel like a series of videos called "What Makes This Song Stink," and in it he's talking about horrible songs
Mhm.
and breaking them down in music theory wise in terms of why they're horrible.
Mhm.
And it's incredible. It's one of my favorite things. And anytime there's a new Pat Finnerty video, it's like, gotta watch. Like that immediately gets my attention.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
another one who she has an awesome community is Emily Hopkins, who does like harp videos, but she plays her harps through
Oh,
guitar
okay, yes, I
pedals.
do recognize this channel.
Yes, Emily Hopkins is awesome. And she has a really fantastic fun community, and, like, they support musicians and just teaching people how to use the certain pedals. So, like, yeah, like, I don't know if you're familiar with guitar pedals.
A little bit. I'm aware of them, but
Yeah, oh,
feel free to explain
okay,
them.
so sure, I can do that. So you have a guitar, and the guitar makes sound. You plug in an electric guitar, and you strum a chord, and it goes brrrnt, and you want that sound, instead of being a nice clean brrrnt, you want it to sound like and
Right.
so you will plug in a pedal which electrically modifies the signal
Mhm.
to make sound like and that's the goal.
Uh-huh.
Is
I
you want
appreciate
to
the
do
sound demo.
things. Yes, I don't have an amp plugged in right now. I got an amp back there, but
Mhm.
I need to it's not hooked up, and I'm not gonna do that right now. But so what we do here is, like, you might have, say, as an example, a delay pedal,
Mm,
which you'll make your sound and it'll, like, echo it. So
mhm,
brunt, 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 brunt. But that sounds like a simple thing, but sometimes you want something rhythmic,
mhm,
like 2 of them chained together in stereo so that they ping pong off,
mhm,
and actually setting that up can be labor intensive
mhm.
and can pull people out of the, art of music making, and they're just, like, reading instructions, and
Right.
it feels like you're doing an IKEA thing instead of, like, actually doing your craft.
Mm.
So I love videos that go into the details of how to, like, here's how I got this sound, and it's fiddling with the knobs and showing it. And channels that do that well, I think are fun. There's
Mm.
a few that I like, but yeah, Emily Hopkins is chief among them at this point.
Yeah, I do have a guitar sitting back there. I need to practice. I'm not very good with it. It's one of those like there are many things I would like to get good at, but there's only so much time in the day. And
100%.
yeah, I
I spend too much time chasing those things, which is why I don't make videos as often as I want.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, I was gonna ask you sort of what grabs your interest when you want to make a video, like, because you kind of have a bit of a rant, like it's like focused around old tech and Linux, but it's a bit of a random assortment in those sort of spaces.
If you ever figure out what motivates me to make a video, let me know.
Hmm.
No, it's, I just kinda do the thing I wanna do, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know that there's a really good rhyme or reason to it, and maybe there should be.
Hmm.
Um, Oftentimes, it'll be something that, like, a patron will throw at me, like, somebody on Patreon will be like, "Hey, Veronica, you here's a thing. You might not know about it. Maybe you wanna cover it." And it'll be like, "Oh, that I clearly there's interest,"
Hmm.
and, like, I'll ask questions and just kinda do it. Um, I have a backlog. Here's one of the things that I used to do when I was sysadminning.
One of those is
I
right.
usually type sysadminning, but how do you is it administrator? Like, administrating? I don't know how to
I
describe
would
that as
probably
a
go
verb.
sys adminning. That's where I would lean to.
Yeah. When
Does
when I was
list
doing
doesn't matter.
when I was doing that thing, I used to do, like, I would record scenes of me doing the thing, like just screen
Mm,
recordings, and pick out parts that I found interesting, and that's kinda where the little Linux lessons started,
mm,
is I would voice over, "Okay, people don't know how to do this.
mm,
I should explain it." And that became the start of the Little Linux Lessons
mhm,
series, and that like, kind of experience leading to the video,
mm, mm,
I think that's still kinda my motivation. It's like, as I'm going about my day, this thing, I realize, "Oh, people don't know how to do this. I should make a video out of this."
mhm, mhm,
And nowadays, it's a lot of, like, people will say in the comments, "Hey, I'm confused about this thing." Like, I think I did, what was a video that I did that with recently? Static sites. I
mm,
made the statics I did a video recently about, spinning up a static site generator, and that was totally based on the comments from another video I did about VimWiki, where I did the VimWiki video and I talked about how it has an HTML kinda exporter, but
I does
if
it? I've
you
never
really
u I've
yeah.
used Vimwiki for, like, 4 years, I didn't know that.
Yes, it does. It has you can create an HTML version of your VimWiki.
Mhm,
Um, it's not great,
mhm,
mainly because, like, if you wanted to make like an actual website that, like, people would consume, I find it to be kinda cumbersome.
mm,
And so the way I've accomplished this in the past is I would do my markdown in VimWiki and all that stuff, but then I would sync that to a repo that would run a static site generator. And so I can still get to the markdown bits from VimWiki. It's
mhm,
still lightning fast, speed of VimWiki. And then I'd use the markdown generator or I'd use the static site generator in the markdown to actually control how the site looks and how it behaves.
right.
And I kinda casually mentioned that in the VimWiki video. People were like, "Okay, we wanna see how you make a static site." So that led to the next thing. So, like, at this point, that's kind of the one of the bigger pulls for making videos.
Mhm. So you
But
kinda let the interest of people watching the channel kinda direct you towards things that might be interesting to talk about.
if a lot of people are asking me questions, it gives me an idea like, "Okay, maybe I should talk about it."
Mhm, mhm,
And, yeah, like, I know I do a lot of jokes where I talk about, like, engagement farming, but when I do my engagement farming joke and it really works, that tells me, okay, maybe there's something to it. And, that I think that influences it a bit. Like, what was another one? I had a video do really well at this. The Linux Mint versus Linux Mint Debian edition video that I did a couple years ago. Um, that one was entirely spawned off of every comment I ever got talking anytime I mentioned Linux Mint,
mhm,
everybody would talk about Linux Mint Debian edition. And it's like, I guess I gotta make a video about this because everybody's talking about it, and I'd like to just point people to the one video and be like, "I already talked about this."
mhm, mhm,
Like,
mhm,
let's be done with it. So I really went all out in that in that video, I did an animated intro showing them as being, like, different bands, and, like, you have Linux Mint Debian edition is like REM and Pearl Jam, whereas, like, the original Linux I was gonna make the original Linux Mint like the Beatles or something, but I think I
mhm,
decided for Star Trek just because I called it the flagship Ubuntu-based edition, and then I had the Enterprise kinda show up.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
Um, but, like, animation's fun. What was I saying?
What guides you towards making a video?
Oh, yeah, I have ADHD. Well, it's whatever I want.
Fair enough. Yeah,
It's
no, I
100%
get it.
whatever floats my boat that day.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. No, I totally get that as well. Um, so I do think it is really cool that you got this kind of like mix of the old hardware and the Linux stuff as well. Like,
Mhm.
I've been trying to like sort of branch out a bit from just doing the Linux stuff, 'cause that's kind of like what the my channel is basically focused on at this point.
Sure.
Early on, I did do a bunch of random things, but now it's kind of like I'm in this niche, and I'm
Yep.
trying to like I like the niche I'm in, but I would like to do things outside of that as well, and just sort of see how they go.
Right. I think there's 2 schools of thought on it, and, like, I decided right away I didn't want to do 'cause, when I named the channel, I thought about calling it Veronica Explains Linux, and
Mm,
then having another one, like, Veronica Explains Vintage Computers, some Veronica Explains Retro,
sure, sure, sure.
separating it out. Um, and the reason I decided not to do that is because, 1, I don't wanna check more than 1 YouTube studio, really. Like
I totally get that. Yeah.
I don't wanna go going into the right and clicking, like, change the channel, and then change the channel again, and then change the channel. Like, I don't wanna do that, that's
Yeah.
too much work.
Fair.
But beyond that, it's like, a lot of this stuff blends together for me,
Mm.
and I
Oh, did I disconnect from Jitsi? Wait, what's happened here? Uh, what's happened? Wait, why can't I? Someone disconnect. Okay, lovely. Someone disconnected. Who disconnected? Did you disconnect?
I don't think so. Can you still see me and hear me?
I can. Could you hear me through that?
No, you disconnected quickly.
Okay, sure, fine.
I don't know what happened.
That's Australian internet. It's fine.
You're much cleaner now. You were a little pixely before. You just cleaned up.
Hmm. Okay.
So I don't know what that was. Do I still look and sound okay?
Yeah, yeah, you're totally fine. Um.
Okay. Yeah. Weird. Okay.
Anyway,
Um
yes.
so what was I saying? What was your question? There
Um.
might not have been one.
Oh, God. It was like a
Hit
30 seconds
rewind.
ago.
Yep. Nope. That's already it's poof. It's out of my brain
Yeah,
now.
no, I feel the exact
Um
same way.
Let's see, Linux. I think we're talking about YouTube Studio. We were talking about
Yes,
channels
yes,
and yes, thank
yes.
you. Okay. I was thinking about stuff. There's just I think that when you niche up, it's harder to break out of a niche.
Mm,
And niching up, I think, can lead you to like lead one, I'm speaking generally here, an audience faster.
mm,
If I only ever made videos about, uh, scalars, vintage computer scalars,
mm,
it would be great for people who are into vintage computer scalars. But then if I decided, "You know what? I kinda wanna now talk about vintage televisions,"
mm,
half my audience would be like, "I don't wanna hear about that." And I was trying to be very intentional right away with the channel. Like, my first video, I made it about a vintage piece of it was about the, Wise terminal, like an actual terminal,
mm,
that
mm,
thing your
mm,
terminal emulator emulates. I made a video about that thing
mm,
and connecting it to a modern Linux with just a Raspberry Pi and,
mm,
like, some stuff.
mm, mm, mm.
And I did that as the first video because I wanted to be kind of intentional about we're not just gonna talk about the one thing. We're
Right.
gonna talk about more than one thing. And I've tried to blend the 2 as much
Mm,
as I can, and it's hard. I mean, sometimes a video doesn't do as well as I would hope,
mm.
but I think that's the case with everybody.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
sometimes a video pops off that I'm not expecting, like that Commodore 64 on the internet video. I don't know what happened, but that video exploded, and I didn't expect it to.
I think there is a very well, there's obviously a very dedicated community of people who are interested in the Commodore 64,
Right.
but there's also a lot of people who sort of have a passing interest in weird old tech. Like you'll see videos. A great example is a while back there were these videos that came out of what happens if I connect a Windows XP system to the internet.
Yep.
And a lot of those videos like really popped off. Not because XP is something that anyone really cares about, but it's sort of like people know about XP, they're aware of
Right.
it, and they're like, "Oh, okay, well what happens if I actually do this?" And there is that like very dedicated niche of people who do really care about XP. So you get that like initial interest in it, and then the people with passing interest, it gets to them, and they're like, "Oh, that seems like a weird, cool thing to check out," and they give it a look, I guess.
Yep. No, that totally makes sense. The it's just kind of um it's funny, I
Hmm.
think, how the I think the YouTube algorithm is something I'll never understand. And like I think I'm done trying to. It's gonna be a thing where like I just kind of do the thing I want to talk about.
Mhm.
Like I'm sitting here looking at this. I got this goofy piece of hardware here.
Hmm.
And what this does is it converts a Sega Genesis controller to something an Amiga or a Commodore 64 can use.
Mhm.
And it's such a small thing, but there's a ton of really interesting like science behind it.
Mhm.
Why does this work? Why is it necessary? Who came up with it? How does, why can't you just plug one in directly? Like this port, the DE9 port
Mhm.
was at one point the standard before like serial and US, like this was kind of the de facto, every console had that port on it.
Hmm.
Um there's at least 8 videos in that. But like will people watch them? And
Hmm.
it's kind of like I don't know if I care anymore. Like cuz I want to talk about it. And I think when I spend a lot of time, I think this might be true with everybody.
Hmm.
If not, I apologize to everybody. But when you spend a lot of time sitting there thinking about what's going to do well,
Hmm.
that's time you're not spending creating.
Hmm.
And I think that I need to, like, kinda get past that, and I think a
Mhm.
lot of people, can relate to that, that it's like, "Oh, I might be spending too much time in the planning stage
Right.
and not enough time in the actually making your art or actually doing that thing stage,"
Mhm.
and like, right now, I'm doing a house project. We're ripping up our kitchen up there.
Mhm.
Um, I'm stuck in the basement, and, so we're ripping up the kitchen, and it's like, you spend a year planning it,
Mhm.
and then the work is like 15 minutes, and it's like, "Why'd I spend a year planning this?
Mhm. Mhm.
I should have just started."
Yeah, this is actually really a really good point because I've had people come to me ask like, "Oh, how do I start a YouTube channel? How do I get started? What do I do?" And then like 6 months later, they're still thinking about that first
Yep,
video. And at the end of the day, the first video you make is probably going to be bad, right? Like you can
yep,
sit there, work on it for 2 years, and you're probably not going to make the best thing you're going to make because you don't really have that experience in actually creating not just one thing, but a range of different things that all
right,
inform sort of the direction you want to take things, that develop your own style. And you kind of need to have that like baseline level of experience before you're going to be ready to make something you really want to make. And a lot of people, they get really caught up in making that first thing the perfect thing,
Yep.
and it never gets released. They never actually follow through with it.
I think that's a lot of it, and, like, I know I can speak to my own experience with it where it's like, I first had the idea of doing a YouTube channel, like, in, I think, 2014, 2015,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I didn't actually publish my first video, I think, until 2021, and it was just because I was sitting there thinking, "Oh, well, what kinda camera do I wanna use? Oh, well, what kinda microphone do I wanna use? Oh, well, what kinda stuff do I wanna cover? Like, do I ever wanna talk about Windows? I probably don't wanna talk about Windows. Do I ever wanna do, like, the kind of news, like, tech news? I probably don't wanna talk about tech news. Like, do
Mhm.
I wanna talk about tech news? I don't know if I wanna talk, like, and I spend a lot of time on that, and that was all time. It was embryonic.
Mm.
But, like, at the same time, I think the cake baked in the oven for a really long time, and I don't know that that made the cake taste any better.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, I think at the end of the day, it just start doing the thing.
Yeah, there's absolutely value in thinking about some of that early stuff, but you can definitely get caught up in it thinking it's more valuable than it actually is, and just
Right.
not actually doing it's not just with that, right? Like, you can think about it with you want to start a band, right?
Yep.
And you're like, okay, you and your friends are together, you're like, okay, we're gonna start this band, and then you kind of just don't really do anything with it. You never write a
Absolutely.
song, you never perform, you never really actually commit to doing the thing.
Yep. 100%. That's totally I'm in a band.
Mm.
And my band, um, we all live in different parts of the country here in the United States. Like, I'm in a band with other YouTubers. It's
Mm.
actually we recently decided we're going to refer to ourselves as the RetroTube Faculty Band. And so it's four YouTubers getting on stage at vintage computer festivals and being silly.
Mhm.
And it's taken me like a year to put out the EP.
Mhm.
A big part of that is that I spend so much time on the which microphone do I want to use for this?
Mhm.
Oh, which delay pedal do I want for this? And it's endless mental deliberation. And luckily, my bandmates prod me along. And that helps.
That is the nice
Um
thing of having other people involved, yeah.
Yep. And that's been a positive in my life.
Mhm.
So, is I think that's a really good thing. But no, it's all kinds of fun when we actually get to be on stage together. And I only wish, like, the only thing I wish were different is that we lived in the same geographic vicinity and could actually get
Right,
together
right.
easier, because it is literally like we got time zones different, but we also have like the middle between all of our points is probably Chicago, Illinois,
Mm.
and even that's an 8 to 12-hour drive.
Mm.
Like, that's kinda rough to just kinda get together and hang out and do stuff,
Mhm.
so makes it kinda hard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I get it, right? It's you would like to do more, and yeah.
I
But,
mean, I
like,
don't
at
know if
least you're
you
doing something, right? Like,
Yeah.
you've taken those first steps. It's just then you've actually gotta do all the coordination
Yeah,
past
it's
that
it's
point.
so I don't know if you, like, ever run into I know you put out more videos than I do,
Yeah,
and I don't
people comment on this, you're like, "I don't know how you have this much time to do it." Yeah.
But, like, you got that fancy stream deck, so
Mm.
you can, like, call
Yes.
up your scenes in real time, which is awesome.
I only recently got this set up. I had it sitting in a box. Again, this is going back to what I was saying. I had it in a box for about a year, and I didn't take it out of the box, and it took me like 5 minutes to set it up. There's a couple of really good open source tools. Like the official software doesn't work, but there's a couple of really good open source tools to configure it on Linux. It works
Which
great
one are you
now.
using for it? Are you using Boatswain or
No, I'm
is that one?
using what's it? Give me 1 second. Stream Deck UI, is that what it's called?
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds right. I tried Boatswain. It has issues with the OBS WebSocket right now. The WebSocket changed out versions, and Boatswain's not updated to the new WebSocket, so it
Oh,
doesn't.
yep. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm aware of that. I'm currently I'm leaning toward so I think I might want to do more streaming.
Hmm.
And a reason why is that there are certain topics that, like I think about distro reviews as being the classic example of this.
Mhm.
I really don't think I don't love watching distro reviews. Let me
Mm.
let me put it that way. And a reason I don't love watching distro I'm not trying to pick on people who do distro reviews, like, do what you do.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
But so much of distro discussion it gets back to that iterative thing where, like,
You
there
might not be mean, though. I will be. A lot of distro reviews are wallpaper reviews.
You said it, I didn't say it. Imma let you say that.
Hmm.
Nobody can get mad at me. I didn't say it. But the distro reviews thing, I yeah, I don't love watching them.
Sure, sure, sure.
I don't learn much from them, but I think there's something different about a live experience
Yeah,
where
you can let
somebody's
people sort of.
walking
You can get the viewers to sort of direct you to things they want to see on the distro, and you can explore it with them.
exactly, and, like, it might be a wallpaper review, but, like, we're having fun together,
Mm. Mm.
and we're having fun reviewing the wallpaper, and that's kinda light and fluffy, but
Mm.
it still accomplishes the goal of showcasing something different. I used to do a little bit more of this,
Mm.
and what happened was I actually switched rooms, and I was like, "I don't want," like, I'm less treated in here, and
Mm.
so it was like, "Oh, I gotta focus on the treatment before I can start to do more and it's like, "No, I don't. I just need to do it." But my gear addiction still required me to purchase a new microphone. Still like, it's a real problem.
I understand that problem. I also have this other problem where I don't like to spend money. So it's like I
Oh,
want there's things I want to buy, but then I'll hold off buying them. Like I've been saying I'm going to upgrade my PC for like 2 years now. Um
sure.
and I haven't done so. I have a list of parts, and I'm more than happy to explore things that I can buy, but then
Mhm.
actually clicking that button, like I can afford it. That's not a problem. I just don't want to.
Right. Nope, that's legit. The, the oh, geez. I don't like spending I'm from Minnesota
Mm.
in the United States,
Mhm.
and Minnesotans and Midwesterners are kind of notorious for avoiding the spending of money as much as
Mm.
we can, and, looking for the deal. Like, I bought the microphone, but you have to understand, I shopped for months finding a used one at, like, a used emporium
Mm.
locally, like, going in and try like, all it's just it's a thing, it's a problem
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
my entire state has, my entire region of the country has, where, like, the deal is the part you lead into. Like, "Oh, yeah, I got this new microphone. I got it for a deal." Like, I can't justify spending retail. Absolutely no way. That's immoral. You
Mhm.
can't do
Mhm. Mhm.
that. Like, I think there are rules about it. So,
No,
it's
I totally get that as well.
you'd fit
I
in here.
I've looked around, like, so many different places before. Like when I why did I disconnect? What? Uh was oh my god. Okay. I love Jitsi today. Jitsy's doing a fantastic job. Oh my god. Oh. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Jitsi. Thank you, Jitsi. Did I just
Uh-oh. Hi.
Hi. I hate
I don't
this
know what
today.
happened there.
Okay. Fine.
You're still connected.
I'm
I can
aware.
still see your
I'm
other
well aware.
connection.
It'll disconnect eventually. Oh, things are going so well. Okay. We'll just let other Brody disconnect eventually. There
There we go. Okay.
there.
Other Brody's gone.
Okay, okay. As I was saying,
Whoop.
um
Yep.
when I
Okay. You
when,
disappeared and came back.
yeah, when I bought my current system, I think I bought the parts for it across 4 different stores just
Oh,
because I was
sure.
like, okay, this is like $5 cheaper here. It's $10 cheaper here. And I spent so much time saving like $30 maybe that it was not
Uh-huh.
worth it. But like I saved $30.
Yep. Oh, 100%. I'm right there with you. We you know, like I often go to like e-wasters.
Mm.
You know, like this is a thing. It's definitely a thing. Looking for just that one part. And it's like how, some people do this with cars where they'll go to like junkyards and they'll look for just that one part.
Yeah, yeah, I got a lot of car friends, my family.
Yeah, nope, just that one part. I'm looking for just that one thing. Like
Mhm, mhm.
I got a 486 and I'm looking for just that one like clock battery holder so
Mhm,
that I can
mhm, mhm.
reassemble it to stock.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
this is I can order the part from like DigiKey. It can be here in 2 weeks or less,
Mhm,
like like it's probably a 3-day shipping. And nope, I will keep looking
mhm,
for a
mhm,
long
mhm.
time. That is how that works.
Yep. Yep.
100%.
Well, especially for things like, you don't need to spend money on, right? Like you don't like
Mhm.
I've got a bunch of teacups that I bought at a garage sale for like $1 each. I
Absolutely.
don't need new cups. Or my coasters. I got actually this is kind of cool. I've I don't know where they originally sold, where you could originally buy them, but there were these. I assume they were sold to tourists. Um,
Sure.
they're these coasters of famous Australian pubs, and I
Okay.
found them at like a secondhand store years ago,
Sure.
and they look great, and they were super cheap, and they are great coasters, and I spent basically nothing on them, and
Ah,
honestly, they're awesome, and I've got like a bunch of placemats as well that are the same as, and it's just like if I don't need to spend the money on like new things,
right. Nope.
like
I'm
yeah,
I'm 100% with you. No, and like I do this with manuals too. Like I
mm,
have a substantive computer manual collection.
mm, mm, mm,
And like what was the one I bought? I bought a manual for the like TI 99 4A. Like a Texas Instruments thing. And
mm,
like
mm,
I bought the original user guide and I did not own the computer. And I said, "But I will someday. And when I do, I'll want the manual." And then lo and behold, last year, I was at a vintage computer festival in Chicago, and there was the computer. And it's like, I was right.
perfect, perfect.
I'm I'm ready to go.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm,
I might have a copy of the manual to repair a Macintosh SE30, despite the fact that I do not own a Macintosh SE30, but someday I will.
mhm,
Someday one will be on my desk, and when it is, I'm ready.
mm,
I'm set for that one particular thing. I have a storage unit.
mm, mhm.
That helps. That feeds the addiction a little bit.
Mhm, mhm. So when you're looking at, well, firstly, what do you consider to be retro hardware? Because different people are gonna have different ranges, and like, what sort of range are you interested in?
So, I make a distinction, this might be a silly distinction, but it's one I make,
Mm,
where I make a distinction between retro and vintage.
mm,
And so retro is a style in my mind,
right.
and vintage is of an age.
Okay.
So, like, we talked earlier about the new Commodore 64.
Mm,
I would
mm.
call that retro, but it's not vintage in that
Mm.
it's new.
Right, similar to those, the company that was selling, like, new, um, the clicky keyboard, I'm blanking on the name, they're really popular.
Oh, yeah, and the
The
Model
IBM
M and the
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There was a company selling,
I
like, new versions of those. I'm
oh,
blanking on the company.
you mean like this one?
Is that actually
Um,
one of those?
there's a this one's actually an original this one's a
Oh, it's an
vintage
original.
one, not a
Mhm,
retro one. This is
mhm.
actually from IBM, but it was made by the people who
Unicomp.
now Yep,
Unicomp, that's the company I'm
Unicomp.
thinking of.
I was gonna say, that's the same company
Mhm.
that made them back in the day. They just you through a series of spin outs and stuff, like, they have a different name, but it's the
Right.
same people. It's the same that made at the same factory.
Mhm,
Um, so, like but I would call that retro and not vintage, a new one. But
mhm,
mine, which is from the '80s, I would call vintage.
mhm.
And so that's the reason I make that distinction is simply because some stuff I'm not interested in just because it's retro, but I might be interested in the vintage equivalent of it. So,
Mm.
like, uh, I there's a proliferation right now of modern computers that work in 8 bits or do, like, like, simple little things. A good example of this is the 8-bit guy has something called the Commander X16. I don't know if you're familiar with the 8-bit guy
Mm.
from RetroTube or anything like that.
I've probably have seen a video here and there.
Yeah, he seems fine, whatever, but, like, I'm not trying to be rude about his project.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, but it's like, it doesn't it does modern stuff that people are writing right now, and I'm really glad that there are people who are interested in those constraints.
Mm, mm.
Um, I don't know if I would necessarily want to invest in making a video about it because it's not vintage and it doesn't pique the artistic interest quite the same way, if
Mm.
that makes sense. Like,
Right.
there's something about making a video or writing a blog post or talking about something that's of a vintage that I don't necessarily feel about talking about something that's modern but has a retro feel. If
Right, so
if
you
that makes
value
sense.
the, I guess, the age of the age, and maybe legacy's not the right
Y
word there?
I think there's more to talk about with the age and the legacy,
Mm,
like, talking about a new system. There's not the history to kinda dwell on, and, like,
mm,
that's the
mm,
part that I find to be fascinating as far as a story goes. Um, again, it's not picking on the people doing it, but, like, at the end of the day, from a content perspective, that's, I think, where more of my interest lies in making the thing,
mm,
and so, like, that's the part that I think gets to me, and when it comes to that aspect of it, yeah, I'm really interested in basically 1998 and before,
mm.
if that makes sense. So, like, I use 1998 as the distinction because 1998 was the year that Steve Jobs released the Bondi Blue. I'm saying Bondi because you're Australian and apparently that's how you pronounce it. Um, Bondi Blue iMac G3, the first iMac.
Oh, that one.
Yep.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
this, in my mind, is the end of the vintage that I find to be interesting. That's the tail end,
Mhm.
because this computer was the first mass popular super successful computer that only used USB. It was designed around the internet. You could just plug it in and you just start going.
Mhm.
You don't have much to do. And it really does feel like kind of the beginning of the modern era, is
Mm.
that particular point. And within a couple of years, beige was out. All everything was, we can get you connected to the internet. Oh, this has, you get you online. Like, it suddenly starts to look like the modern era. It
Mm.
might be slower than the modern era, but in my mind, 1998 represents that break
Mm.
where everything that by 2000 you start seeing laptops with Wi-Fi on them. You start seeing like the it starts to look like today.
Right, right, right.
And the coincidentally, like around the same time, you start seeing NT. You start seeing like XP was just around the corner. You start to like suddenly the world looks much more modern,
Right. So
if
things
that makes
kinda
sense.
it it's that shift into things starting to kinda look all the same, tech feeling like it moves considerably slower, even though we're having so many iterations happen, it's a lot more like micro iterations.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. I think about it more like um that story is one we're currently living,
Mm.
but there's something fascinating about like with the Commodore 64, just to, cuz I have one sitting right here, is like BBSing and getting connected to BBSs and like the way that online was
Mm.
in the 1980s and the earlier part of the 1990s,
Right.
that it was different. It was not what we're used to today. It was more deliberative. It was more community building. It's more anonymous, or at
Mhm.
least more. One might describe it as more lurker friendly.
Mm.
Um, there's actually a really good book. I think it's called Lurking. I wonder if I have it sitting right here. How
Our person became a
how a
user?
per yeah, how a person became a user. Yep.
Mhm.
That it's an awesome book. It's definitely worth reading. Because it
It's
kind of
10
outlines.
USD if anyone wants to get it. It's pretty cheap.
Yes. It outlines that distinction, or that transition period really well.
Mhm, mhm.
And yeah, I read it recently. It's really good. The I love this notion of the pre-constant connection era as being a place where it was exciting
Mm.
to get connected. And now it's just, "Ugh, I'm connected." Like
Right.
it doesn't the magic doesn't feel like magic anymore.
Yeah, I hear this a lot from people who are very into vinyls. And that's like a
Sure.
thing that's really come back where vinyl music is a very deliberate action. You will
Absolutely.
you will lift up the thing, you'll put the vinyl on there, unless you've got a fancy player, which you might, where it like automatically puts the needle down for you. You put the needle down, and then when you want to listen to the rest of it, you will have to flip it, and
Yep,
you can't just have all your music there. When that's done, you've got to take it out and do the process again. And
absolutely.
getting online then was very much a thing it was a process, it was a thing you had to do. It wasn't just, hey, I can pick up my phone and I'm online. That's it.
Yep. And it was so hard compared with today, and like I'm all for the democratization of connectivity.
Mhm.
Like I don't want to gatekeep people, but there was a difference in communities when like every link you clicked, you understood you were taking time.
Mhm.
Like, right
Mhm.
now, we click a link, we're there instantly,
And if it's not
but
instant, then a lot of people get annoyed.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But back then, I didn't click a link if I didn't wanna spend the time on it. You
Mm.
know, like, when I was, 12 or 13 when I was first getting into the web, and, like, at the time, I had, I think, a 28.8 modem, and, like, on 28.8, I am not clicking that link unless I really wanna see that site.
Mhm.
You know, like, I remember, following NASA's, they had, like, an aurora guide or something like that for, like, seeing the northern lights, and it was like, "I'm not clicking on this link to show something that's happening in Michigan
Mm.
unless I think it's really gonna be stunning," which caused the designers of the website, I think, to have to be more deliberative with their text. You know, they had to actually sit and ponder, we need to, we don't just wanna show an image because the image is gonna saturate the modem connection, it's gonna slow down and people are gonna not click on the site. So,
Mhm.
we need to be careful about what we put on here, and we need to be very intentional, and that was the web to which I learned about the web and I
Mhm.
learned about the tech. And I was a kid, but I was there for that. And I think that that kind of inspires me when I think about modern tech and trying to be more deliberate. Like I try to make, with my videos, I try to make them an experience
Mm.
because that's what I had. Like, at
Right.
least, like, with what we would now call a blog post, but, like, we just called them websites at the time, like, I you didn't put something on the web unless it was very intentional,
Mm.
because it took you time to put it on there, and it took somebody else time to click on it, and they would just ignore your website forever if you were being disrespectful about the connection.
Mhm. 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 You talked a bit about community before, and I think part of that is the fact that it's very easy to jump from place to place to place. And, like, prime example, let's take Reddit, for example. Reddit has all
Oh,
of these different sub communities, and
mhm,
you never really have to be attached to any of them because it's so easy to just move between them. But
yep,
when it actually took effort to find a place where people were communicating online, like that,
sure.
and a place that you really fit into, it was a sort of idea where you kind of had to, like, you would you'd try to fit in a bit more because it would take more effort to find a new place.
Right. No, I hear that completely. Like there's a whole like theory of face work here
Mm.
too, I think, where when we had different websites, or like I remember America Online was a little like this. We had different like chat rooms and
Mm.
different chat areas, and you would have to engage a different face for being in the, like, horror movie chat room
Mm.
than you would being in, like, the chess chat room, like, there's a different culture, a different
Mm.
concept,
Mm.
and I think that people kinda understood that in the same way we understand that, like, we put on a different face when we're spending time with family versus when we're spending time with friends. We
Mm.
we speak differently, we might, mode switch a little bit. I think that's natural. I think that's
Mm.
like a
Mm. Mm.
healthy social thing. And I think to a wide extent, the homogenization of platforms has really kind of broken that.
Mm.
And now people kind of behave the same way across communities
Mhm.
in a way that we didn't before. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of that is shit posting, you know? Like, that's kind of the cultural currency
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
how much like, how what does our post translate to in terms of reach?
Mhm.
And that is how we determine our legitimacy to be in a space.
Mm.
You know, like Reddit is the example, will tell you somebody's like a top 1% poster.
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
And that encourages a certain type of behavior. YouTube's now doing this with live streams where they're like crowning the person
I
in the
still have
chat.
not worked out how the XP system works. I've
It's bizarre.
Yeah, because
I
I thought it was maybe based on your activity in the chat, but then I had someone who posted like 20 messages, some regular joined, and then they're automatically the crowned person. I still have no idea what they're doing.
or like is does it have to do with super chats? Like I don't
I no,
know.
I've not had on that channel. No one had done so, so it's definitely not that.
Okay. Yeah, I
Um.
like I can't figure it out either. It's kind of bizarre. And that's what you want. You want a system that's completely bizarre that rewards people for things that you can't possibly know why
Mhm.
they're being rewarded for it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's exactly the scenario we're hoping for. But
Mhm.
I think there was something like online communities of old needed to be intentional because otherwise you were wasting people's not only time, but like it cost money to have a connection. You were spending money on that connection, so you didn't want to be rude to people.
Mhm. Mhm.
And when you go back a generation before and we talk about like the BBSs, um, not only did that obviously tie up your phone line unless you were rich enough to have two phone lines, but like if you were connecting to a BBS that wasn't in your geographic area, that cost you long distance. That was you had to be really not rude to people.
Mhm.
Um, in terms of as the platform creator,
Mhm.
in terms of how you respect your audience, you had to take their time seriously.
Mhm.
And so, like, when I think about how BBSs operated and how they treated the user versus how Reddit does, Reddit is not suffering from that constraint. YouTube is not suffering from that constraint. And I think that that leads to different design choices.
Mhm.
And I think that we're seeing the impacts of those design choices in not only like the proliferation of YouTube face, but like people's attitude and behavior online going from being reasoned to edgy,
Mhm.
and that making life less fun to be in these platforms. And I think that as we kinda as a generation grows up having seen this, we're gonna see the impacts of that. And,
Mhm.
hopefully platforms take steps to, instead of rewarding people for stuff we don't know, maybe they'll tell us why they're rewarding people and we can criticize them into changing how they do it. I don't know.
Mhm. Mhm.
I just explain the problem. I don't necessarily come up with the answer.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think we're gonna see something very so one thing is I'm of that like last generation that was sort of go like I had a period in my life where there wasn't widespread every single person having a smartphone. Most
Right.
people I knew didn't have a smartphone until mid to late high school. So I at least had that like early childhood period where like I had a phone, but the phone was like it was like a flip phone I could make calls to my
Sure.
parents. So it was like it was still a phone, but it's not like what you're seeing now, where you're seeing kids who are, 7 years old with an iPhone, three iPads, and
Yeah.
everything else. I do think there's going to be a very interesting conversation that happens as like this generation that has grown up entirely on technology reaches into adulthood. We're starting to see the youngest of these people start to make their way into that, and then there's all of the other challenges happening at the same time with the widespread adoption of these AI tools.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing from hiring managers that they are hire like I heard one story recently. They hired someone and immediately fired them when they found out they'd hired a developer who asked the AI chatbot, "How does Git work?"
Yep.
Immediately, nope, you're gone. You are not even remotely qualified for this position.
When I was getting started, at least Google didn't report back to my boss when I asked how Git works. Like, that was at least an advantage. I bet with some of these chatbots, I haven't looked to see. I got out of the sysadmin game right before the proliferation of chat tools and,
Mhm,
like, all
mhm.
all this stuff, and so I haven't seen how reporting works, but, like, it was amazing how many, bosses wanted search histories of their employees.
Well, you're seeing this thing become common where they want to do these like surveillance tools on
Yeah.
work laptops and things like that, which became
Oh,
very common
100%.
with like people doing work from home. They
Yep.
want to like monitor you to make sure that you're actually doing work, and yeah.
Oh, I when COVID hit and people started working from I was doing pretty well at helping, companies get, like, VPNs set up and,
Mm-mm.
like, these because I did, contract sysadmin work. So, basically helping the IT people figure out how to do a thing.
Mm.
And a lot of the VPN stuff, I remember, like, C-suite folks asking me, "Oh, does the VPN go both ways?" And it's like, "How about no?" I'm gonna go with no.
Wait, so I'm assuming they wanted access to the employees' systems then.
Yes.
Yeah.
What do they have at home? And I remember saying, "I want you to talk to your lawyer about this.
Mhm.
Ask the same question you just asked me. Ask an attorney. Then get back to me."
Yeah, yeah.
I can't help you with this. But oh my goodness, it was a lot of fun.
Mhm, mhm.
The nice thing was at the time people were so desperate that, like, I actually had a lot of control over what I would, take and what I wouldn't. Like, if somebody was being a jerk about it, I could say, "Look, I don't want the gig.
Mm.
Go go find somebody else." And yeah, I kind of loved my clients because they were being very I was able to choose the ones that were more, trusting.
Right,
The
right.
ones that weren't doing, like, terrible things and, like, the ones who didn't wanna take advantage.
Sure,
So,
sure, sure.
that had at the time, it was definitely it favored the admins, it favored us. I
Mhm.
don't know if that would be the case today with
Mm.
so many companies thinking, these so-called AI tools can just do it for you.
Mhm.
But, like, good luck when prod gets deleted.
Did you see the Replit thing recently where
Mhm.
yeah, the date for anyone who's unaware, um Replit was just like that database? What database? That
Yep.
doesn't exist anymore. Just delete it.
It's me, like, sipping my tea, like, "Oh, apparently you need a DBA still."
Mhm, mhm. Imagine that, imagine that. What is
It's
your general stance on this tooling that's sort of
I don't
yeah.
have a like, I don't have a serious like, at the beginning of all my videos, I do have a disclaimer that I
Mm,
don't use generative AI.
sure, sure, sure.
And a reason why is that, one, a lot like, a lot of people use it and they don't disclose that they're using it,
Mm,
and it leads to questions. Like, and I started to notice that in my own comments, like, "Oh, you sound slower today. Is this an AI version of you?" And it's like, so I need to say I'm not using it, and that's all fine. But, like, I do kind of think that when people use it, they should at least talk about it.
mm,
And a lot of people do. A lot of people say, this is a AI version of my voice.
mhm, mhm,
And like, I don't have a problem with that per se. Like, I
mhm.
have concerns about the training data. I have concerns about, like, the copyright rights being violated
Sure,
by,
sure, sure.
writers and stuff. Like, that my concern is more the ethics, not to mention the environmental stuff. Um, do I care if somebody's using some server in their basement to create art? No, probably not.
Mhm, mhm,
Um, would I like to see the art? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Like I just find it boring.
mm,
It all kind of looks the same right now, and like with the music, it all kind of sounds the same. Like I'm not worried about it coming for my job anytime soon. Um, and if it does, like I still like making video. I still like making music. I like the art part of it. And
mm, mm.
I don't think a computer doing that work for me is ever gonna change the fact that I enjoy it,
Right, right,
if
right.
that makes sense. So, like, I don't worry so much about that. Um, when it comes to people using these things as, like, Google replacements,
I do see
like
this, yes.
yeah, I
Grok, please
where I
explain this tweet, all this sort of stuff.
where I really worry about it is that the way they've oriented these tools is it's oriented toward pleasing the end user
Hmm.
and not oriented toward providing them an answer.
Hmm.
And, you can see that, like, I don't know if you've ever spun up one of these on your own hardware and, like, seen how the prompts work and stuff, but you can see in the design, it's really aimed at, "I want to make you happy."
Mhm.
And I feel like that's the wrong approach. Like, search engines shouldn't wanna make me happy, they should wanna give me truth,
Right.
like, that's the idea. Um, but, like, obviously, with the commercialization of it, a happy user is a repeat user, and I think that for something that's supposed to give you knowledge, that's the wrong way to go. Like, I kinda gravitate more toward books because the book doesn't care how I feel,
Mm.
and I like that. Google kinda stopped Google, even before Gemini,
Mhm.
Google was giving me results based on, like, it was less a direct result and
Mm.
more a vibe.
Mm.
And
Mm.
even I noticed DuckDuckGo even starting to do that, where it was like, I would search for, like, "How do I code this in Bash?" And I was getting results for a, like, festival in Minneapolis, and it's like,
There
"Just give me the information."
mm. Mm.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by search engines that you either host yourself or that you pay for because it kinda takes away that impetus.
Yeah,
Um,
there's one that a lot of people were talking about that you pay for a while back.
Kagi.
That's n which one, sorry?
Kagi,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes, that is the one, yes.
I might be pronouncing it wrong. I tried it. I liked it just fine. I kinda had some concerns about management.
Sure.
And, without getting too much into it, like, they got kind of a weird, to me, like, crypto-y, and they wanna do their own AI bot thing, and, like, I
Mhm,
just kinda
mhm.
found that to be a little, a little odd. Um, they also, like, were saying things, to, paying customers, like, telling some people we're gonna manipulate the results, and then telling other people we don't manipulate the results, and to me, that seems like putting your thumb on the scale, which
Right.
when you say you're not doing that, but then it looks like you're doing that, like, I don't necessarily trust them.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, and but, like, I did think the results were pretty good. But, like, I don't necessarily wanna be in somebody else's bubble either.
Mm.
So, that's, for better or worse, I kinda decided it wasn't worth the money at that point, but I might revisit it at some point if either management grows up a little bit or they, tone down some of the AI stuff.
My kinda main concern with a lot of the AI tooling is it is very much negatively affecting people's ability to find information, right?
Sure.
Like, a a search engine made accessing information easier than, like, going to a library and working out how their sorting system worked. It's considerably easier than that, but you still had to understand, how do I find this information? What am I
Yep.
trying to solve? How do I actually think about the problem? Whereas what you're seeing with, whether it be Gemini, Grok, any of these tools, is basically outsourcing your critical thinking. And I don't think that's going to be healthy in the long run.
I agree with you completely. It's, and I think it's a parlor trick. You know,
Mm,
like, just at the more basic level, like, it can't be everywhere.
mhm,
Like, even if they want it to be everywhere, it's still limited to the, physical device that contains it, and, like, we
mhm,
have interactions in the real world that can't be dictated by this,
mhm.
and I think at the end of the day, like, you're gonna see people, like you mentioned with how do I use Git? You're gonna see people hitting a wall,
Mm,
and I think where I see this, the bubble bursting is you're gonna see companies hitting a wall, where you're gonna see, um there's gonna be some issue, like, you talked about the database being deleted. You're gonna see some issue where some major company loses a boatload of money because of some outsourced process that
mhm.
they weren't thinking about anymore. And when the lawsuits start flying, I don't know that it actually matters who it's decided is at fault, if it's the AI company, if it's the company that did the thing. I
Right,
think you're gonna see managers saying, "I don't know if I trust it." Right now, it's
right.
shiny and new, but that'll pass, and when it does, and there's issues like this, we either have to solve the issues or we're gonna stop using the tools in the same way, and I think I lean toward the latter because I don't think unless we're talking implants and brains, it's not gonna be everywhere with us.
Mhm.
Not quite literally.
One issue we're definitely going to run into, and it's already kind of starting to happen, is a lot of these smaller startup development firms, they are sort of we're seeing a drop off in junior positions
Yes.
and senior devs who know, like, who use these tools as a way to enhance what they're doing. Like, who have a you've been doing this for 15 years, you're a well established developer, you know
Yep.
how to write code, but you're using this as a way to deal with things you don't want to deal with that at a previous time the juniors would have been dealing with.
Right.
And I think a lot of these companies are betting on the fact that it's going to get to a point where you can eliminate the juniors and
Mhm.
immediately jump people right into that senior position. And I don't know if that's going to work out for them in the long run. I
Right.
think we are legitimately going to see an issue of like a skill vacuum where the older people are kind of like, they're getting ready to retire and there's no one there to replace them. It's like it's like the issue of legacy COBOL code but across
Yes.
the entire industry.
Absolutely. I was gonna say we saw this, and the thing is COBOL did not go away,
Mhm.
and neither did COBOL positions. And, it's still like if you wanna learn it, it's pretty lucrative. Like I learned it, and, like, I was never hurting for work. Like, this is definitely a thing. Um, yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean that I recommend it to everybody because, like, you're dealing with perception a lot,
Mm,
and that perception can harm you in terms of, like, your prospects. Like, so, like, people assume you don't need this role, like, "Oh, we should eliminate the code that requires this," like, we shouldn't use Fortran. We
mhm,
shouldn't
mhm,
whatever, pick your poison. Um, and when you're dealing with that, you not only have to convince people to bring you in, but you have to convince people that the thing you learned was worth learning. And that can itself become a limiting factor.
mhm,
So, like, what I recommend to people is it's not something I'd recommend you learn unless you're really committed to the bit.
mhm, mhm.
And like in my case, I was always fascinated by the technology of yesteryear. So, like, for me it made
Right,
sense.
right, right.
Um it's like I wouldn't necessarily tell people to go learn Java just because you like Android.
Mhm. Mhm,
That's
mhm,
like, that doesn't necessarily. These things are not the same, there are different reason like, you should learn Java if you like coding in Java, and if you don't like coding in Java, don't learn Java. Do
mhm,
something you like to do. Don't learn COBOL just because you want a job, because you're gonna have to be convincing people of your passion for the thing.
mhm.
Because there are people with a passion for the thing. And so, like, it's really a simple matter of, if you want to do the thing, you have to actually want to do the thing. And then I think people will hire you, even if it's in a kind of junior training role position. But
Mhm.
I think, getting back to the AI bit, people, like, hiring managers are going to start to think, oh, we don't need to hire for that. The problem is, the people who programmed your COBOL system died.
Yeah.
They're not there any like, you can't hire them, because they're dead now.
Mhm.
So, like, we need to this is a problem that is going to have to be solved one way or another. I think a lot of people are gonna replace COBOL code with crummy, like, other
Right, I've heard people
JavaScript.
getting hired to, like, port COBOL to C# and other things like that.
C sharp is the COBOL for 20 years from now.
C#
There's gonna be
is
so much.
Microsoft skinned Java. There you go. For
Yes, there
any of the C# fans out there, have fun with
Yep,
that one.
there's gonna be so much legacy jobs in C# and .NET, and, like, they're gonna be good government jobs, but, like, I don't think that's going away anytime soon.
Mhm.
And, because, it's inertia.
Mm.
And I think right now, it feels like the world is pulling forward,
Mhm.
but I think when these tools start to have problems, and I think we're already starting to see a little bit of that, um I think that bubble's gonna burst,
Mm.
and it's either gonna burst or it's not gonna burst. And if it doesn't burst, I guess we just have to hope it does a good job.
Mm.
But I'm actually pretty confident it's gonna this feels a lot like the dot-com era in '98. Not
Yeah,
n
you put .com into everything. Like you have there was a period where during earnings reports companies would just mention AI and that would be a way for them to go, like Taco Bell for example. They talked about AI drive-throughs.
what was it? I'm shopping for dishwasher right now, and I'm looking through last year's model versus this year's model, and they're adding AI
I have an AI
to.
rice cooker.
Yeah. It's
I
like,
don't know what the AI does. It's a
we
rice
just
cooker. It works great.
we used to call that, like, a set point.
That actually no,
Like,
that's actually what it is. It's like AI temperature control, but it's
uh-huh.
just like it automatically shuts off when it gets too hot.
Yeah, we've had that for 80 years.
Yeah, I
It's
have a
not new.
kettle, it does the same thing. I have a toaster, it does the same thing.
My thermostat's 100 years old.
Mhm.
It's an AI, in that when it gets to a certain point, it stops.
Mhm.
It's AI, it's artificial, and it's intelligent.
Mhm.
That's
Go
it. One of the reasons I call it so-called AI is
mm,
just because, like, I say that in my it's what is AI really?
mm.
You know what I mean? Like, which part is AI versus, like, my thermostat? Like, this line is really blurry, and I
Right.
have a feeling 100 years from now, people will laugh at what we call the AI.
Mhm, mhm.
And, just like we laugh right now at what people 50 years ago called AI.
Right, right.
Like, this is I think we're at such early days for this kinda concept. Like, we're not Lieutenant Commander Data just yet.
Mhm. Going back a little bit to the whole idea of, like, generative AI, I am generally opposed to it, especially you're seeing a lot of these, like, I guess content slop farms appearing
Oh,
on YouTube.
jeez.
There's just garbage content.
Yep.
Now, I would have said I was entirely against it until the other day. So I saw this Iraqi guy who runs an engineering channel. He actually like physically makes things, but
Cool.
he doesn't speak English well and
Okay.
uses the tool to voice over the videos. This is a
Sure.
weird, different situation where he's actually doing something really impressive in the real world and using this as a way to communicate that information to people. And
That I see that.
I am much less opposed to this.
Well, like, I think about, accessibility tooling
Mm,
and, like, the classic example of this right now is captions,
mm,
where, Google kinda does a lousy job of auto captioning. Whisper does a much better job.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
It's not perfect. There's a lot of like, I've tried it and, it gets like 80% of the way there.
If you're willing
Um,
to clean it up, it's a really good base point to go from.
yeah, it's an excellent base point, and, like, it's hard to argue with that, but I have literally watched, folks who do not have hearing understand the conversation because of an AI model
Mhm,
that they've got, like, and I'm not gonna go tell this person, "You're being immoral,"
mhm.
because I fundamentally disagree with this tool that you're using.
Right.
Like, it's real hard to argue that when it's giving somebody the ability to participate.
Mhm,
And that, like, I just, I can criticize the ethics of the company that's putting it out and say we should have more transparency around sourcing but like I'm not going to sit there and go tisk 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 at
sure.
some person who's understanding the conversation thanks to this tool.
Mhm, mhm.
That's like I'm absolutely not. And
Yeah.
so it's yeah, that's why I try to be I say I don't use generative AI
Mm,
because I want to be transparent about my usage of it, but that isn't the same thing as telling people you shouldn't use it. And like
mhm.
I get criticized all the time from people in the comments now saying like, "Oh, why do you hate on AI?" And it's like, "When did I say that?"
Mhm.
Like show me where in the video me saying I don't use a tool is not the same thing as me yelling at you.
Mm.
Like, and if you're seeing that, like, you're too online. Go do go do something else for a bit.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
I'm saying it because I'm proud of the fact that my vision, like, here's a good example. The band Queen, you're probably familiar with the band
Yes, I'm
Queen.
aware of Queen, yes.
Um, they for several of their albums, they wrote no synthesizers were used in the making of this album.
Mhm.
And part of that was because if you listen to, like, their production, their vocal layering, their guitar layering, it's so thick and full that I could understand how the audience at the time might have thought it was a synthesizer.
Mhm, mhm.
And they were just proud of the work that they put into it. And they and eventually they did start using synthesizers, as the technology changed, they
Mhm,
they adapted to the times and they started incorporating synthetic elements into their music
mhm,
as the band evolved and as the members grew up.
mhm, mhm.
And like I'm just proud of the visuals that I do. Like I spend a lot of time getting the camera angle right,
Right.
getting the lighting right. Like I this stuff takes time. I'm proud of it. And I wanna tell you that I don't use a generative AI tool to replicate this
Mhm.
because this is my art and I'm proud of it. And I know not everybody thinks of YouTube as art, but I do. And every angle was deliberated. The lighting was intentional. Like I
Mhm.
move things around, I'm getting everything set up. And when folks assume it was AI, it's like I feel like it kinda diminishes the work I put into it.
Right,
So I
right.
just like to say it, and that's all it boils. I do think people should disclose when they use it,
Oh,
but
100%, yeah.
yeah, but, like, at the end of the day, it's just because I like the art and I like showing that off.
Mhm,
If this ever changes and for some reason I start using generative AI, I'd wanna disclose it because I think that that's the right way to go.
mhm,
And I think that we just get too hung up on "Are you using AI? Are you not using AI?" And it's more like, I care about the ethics of it
mm,
more so than, are you happy? Are you
mhm,
just putting out videos because you're making money off of it? Or do you actually like creating this? Do you like the crafting?
Mhm.
Because if you're doing it for the money and you don't like the crafting of it, like the AI slop farm, like that I don't have a lot of respect for.
Sure, sure, sure.
But, like, if you are engaging in art and you're using things that I wouldn't use, I can at least respect you for disclosing it and talking about it. Like,
Right.
that's how I feel about it.
Mhm. No, I think that's a pretty coherent sort of stance on it. Um,
I try to be coherent.
that's a good start. Now, YouTube does have a little thing to like mark if the video is
Yep.
using AI. The problem is I don't think they enforce it.
No.
So it
You're
when you
also
do
supposed to mark when your video's sponsored, but, like I know lots of people who get free stuff and they don't disclose it.
mhm. Yeah, or it's like it's a very people can get real weird about what is and is not a sponsor. Like you'll see
Mhm.
there's a lot of these finance videos, for example, where it's like
Sure.
they're using a very specific platform and it's not sponsored, but one of the co-founders of the company is in the video. It's like,
Yes.
okay,
Mhm.
right. What are we doing here?
No, I that happens plenty, and, like, I think of GearTube
Mhm.
and, just going back to, like, music stuff, like, if you get sent the guitar or get sent the pedal or get sent the synthesizer, whatever the case might be, I think you should say it,
Mm.
and I think you should say it right away because, like, somebody who's giving you something for free, like, my favorite expression is, "Thoughts and opinions are my own."
Mhm.
Like, are they?
Right.
Are they? You got like I somebody sends me something for free, I kinda think they're awesome.
I do
You know?
get that at a smaller scale, but when we're talking like take like a channel like a Linus Tech Tips, for example.
Yep.
Like they get sent so much stuff that I think in that context, like they get sent too much stuff to make videos on. So the
Oh, absolutely.
just receiving of like if they receive a GPU, they have bins of GPUs.
Yeah, it
So
it it doesn't possess the value to them the same way.
yeah, yeah. I do think
I
on a
see that.
on a smaller scale though, like um I got sent like a Linux phone to do a review of a while ago.
Oh, sure.
And that like I was very clear like hey, this was sent to me,
Yep.
you know, check it out if you want to check it out. I don't if you get paid for a review, it's not a review, it's a sponsorship.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah, exactly. That's different.
I've had companies be like, "Hey, I would pay you to review." It's like, "That's not, no, stop it. Do you want an ad? We can talk about
Uh-huh.
that, but I'm not doing a
Yeah,
review."
exactly. Nope, I've had that, I haven't done ad reads yet because, like, I hate the idea of, like, blocking up the content, like, the information and having to separate some of the information from other information using, like, you know, "Presented by our sponsor, blah, 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 blah." Like, I the
Yeah.
knowing how people kinda drop off at that point, it's like, I'm already fighting for your attention. I
Mm,
don't wanna get into that. I think it's different when somebody sends you something, but I
mm.
think you should disclose it
Sure.
really early on.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
I think that's the key, and, like, I've generally been opposed to this. I'm kinda softening my stance now on it,
Mhm,
only because my patrons had a very frank conversation with me where I was talking about the ethics of buying a thing
mm,
with the money that they send me
mhm,
when I could just reach out and get the thing
mhm,
and then not be spending their money on this thing. And it gets into this whole stance of a wise use of money to avoid saying they sent me this for review.
right.
Like, why am I spending, like, it's money I could spend on eating. Um And they're the ones footing the bill,
Mhm,
and they're saying, "We don't care."
mhm,
Why do I have a stance that maybe they find unnecessary? Like, it kinda led me to, "Okay, maybe I should just open up a little bit, just a smidge about getting sent free stuff."
mhm.
So, That is to say I'm a shill now. Every video
Yep.
I'm not making a video unless you send me at least $5,000 worth of stuff.
Mhm, mhm. Yep,
There's
yep.
no rules, like, it's no holds bar.
Yeah, all of my
I'm
Wayland videos, I've actually
open for
sent
business.
I'm sent a check by Red Hat, so
Oh, okay, so they send the Red Hat check to Australia too. I
mm.
get mine, yep, every System D video.
Mhm,
You
mhm.
know, Microsoft and Red Hat both team up to
Mm.
send me anytime I talk about System D. Every mention, I'm getting money right now.
Mhm, mhm. Yep, you
Pay
mentioned per word.
PayPal go Burr.
There are actually people who it's so funny, like, I've made so many videos critical of Wayland, and every time I make
Oh, yeah.
one positive one, it's just like, "Oh, he's getting paid by Red Hat." I was like, and
Yep,
I know my
100%.
regulars, and I recognize names. I know when they're messing around, and I see people that I know are not messing around, like, "What are we doing here?"
It's amazing. It's incredible. No, I love the conspiracy theories about who's getting paid by which big giant company to talk about big giant thing. It's
Mhm,
like, I don't care. Like, I don't care about Wayland. Like, I use it. Right now, I'm actually using X11 because I'm recording an album,
mhm,
and a plugin that I use doesn't seem to wanna work on
mm,
X Wayland. You know, like, it's just a simple little thing, but it's like, I'll drop to X11 for this. So I, like, installed Mate the other day.
mm,
And, and it's like, "Oh, I remember why I liked this," but then I'm getting OBS working, and things are different, and I had to reconfigure everything, and it's like, I remember why I disliked this. You know, like, it's all just stuff I do, like, I don't
right.
care, you know, people get so hyped up about it.
What do you find yourself this is kind of the first mention of proper mention of Linux the entire
Yeah, here we go. Let's talk about Linux. We're like, what, 2 hours in? Let's talk about
Yeah,
Linux.
just before we finish off the episode,
Oh,
what
yeah,
do
by the way, I use Linux.
what do you find yourself, daily driving right now?
So I've been using Debian for a while.
Mhm.
I used Pop! OS for a good long time. I like the Cosmic Alpha. There's just some rough edges that would prevent me from editing with it and doing
Sure,
it for
sure.
music, but I liked the Cosmic Alpha. I'm excited to see where they go with it. They don't package it for Debian yet. Um, I on my editing rig, I've been Debian testing now
Mhm.
because we're days away from Trixie being stable.
Mm,
I'm probably gonna rock stable for a year and then decide something else. Y- y- I'm a YouTuber. We gotta like try different things and
sure,
stuff.
sure,
So
sure.
um more recently, I just got off of a stint running GNOME.
Mhm.
Um Yeah, it's better than it used to be. Like there's some design choice. I have a file in my VimWiki that I'll never show anybody called Everything Annoying About. And it's everything I try and every annoyance that I have with it. And I actually found that I was deleting stuff out of GNOME faster than I was adding stuff.
That's good.
And that's, I think, promising for them.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, some things are just silly. Like I maintain GNOME is making the wrong choice. It's not the choice I would go with by not including a taskbar option.
Mhm.
You know, like I know everybody's gonna say there's plugins. I know there's plugins. There's like dash to panel, dash to
Sure,
dock.
sure,
I've
sure.
I've used them all. They're all good. But I have watched so many live streams where somebody's trying GNOME for the first time and they go, "Where's the panel?" And it's like, that is such a stop for people that, like, it's a computing metaphor that, for better or worse, has been with us since the '90s. At
Uh,
least incorporating it a little bit
wait,
would
I wanna
be
say it's actually a bit older than that. Wasn't it a thing on
absolutely, but it's been like a standard on virtually every
Sure.
system.
I would say it probably became a standard with, like, with so many other things, probably with the Lisa.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure. Um, but, like, Windows 3.1 didn't have a panel.
Sure, sure, sure.
That's like your computer by Windows 95, every system virtually that anybody was using had this.
Right.
And I get the idea behind, the overview.
Mhm.
I can appreciate it, but, like, just give us a toggle.
Mhm.
Like, something simple, just, like, I think 80% of the problems with GNOME
Mhm.
be solved with that, like, 80% of everybody's issues
Mhm.
be solved with that one thing. They are not gonna take this advice. That is okay. You do you.
Mhm.
I'm glad for Dash to Dock. I'm glad for Dash to Panel.
Mhm.
Um, and then before I just dropped to X11, I'm using Mate right now, but,
Mm.
I was on Sway for a bit again.
Ah, nice.
And I do like Sway. I like, manual tiling. It's kinda nice to have the fine grained control.
Mhm.
Hands on the keyboard, less hands on the mouse. I'm a fan of that.
Right, right.
Um, but, I know I think you're using, what is it? The paper one, the
Neri, yes.
yeah, Neary, thank you. I keep wanting to call it Paper WM, but
Yeah,
that's the
Paper
GNOME
WM, that's the
extension.
GNOME extension, yeah.
Yep, and, you like that one? You're
Yeah,
having fun with it?
I've been vibing with it. It's nice. I've always preferred the dynamic tiling over manual tiling. I did
Sure.
start on i3, but then when I went to BSPWM and Awesome and
Oh, sure.
yeah, I like I get the idea of being able to like fully control where the tiles go, but I end up basically just doing the same thing anyway and creating like the
Yeah, the
golden
golden
ratio.
ratio.
So it's just like I'd much rather just let it do that for me. And then
Sure.
Neri, you have that infinite horizontal space, and I don't know if it's better than using workspaces for everything. I'm still trying to work it out because I
Sure.
do tend to lose track of windows, which
Yep.
yeah, can be a problem, but
That's kind of the thing. So I ran into that because I tried, Paper WM,
mm,
and I really liked it on my writing laptop. Like, the laptop I use for writing scripts and, like coming up with stuff. I
mm,
I thought it did fine there. Um Using it for editing, I found that, I do basically a lot of drag and drop of clips. Like, I arrange the clips in the folder before I actually open up the editor,
mhm,
Kdenlive, and then I drag them in sequentially, and then I start laying them out.
mhm,
And I found that, I have clips in multiple different areas. I was trying to organize that, and it was just a pain having them not tile
r-
on the same workspace. Like,
right.
workspaces were something that I actually found that I was using a lot of,
Mhm,
and I was losing windows. And so, like, I just wasn't able to use it in that context very well. Um, I think if I didn't edit video and audio, I could see myself really liking that a lot
mhm,
more. Or at least if I didn't edit video and audio so complex, with such a complex setup, like, you know, I basically, at any given point, I have 3 file browsers up collecting information from my frequently reused clips, my B-roll, my A-roll, and I'm importing and putting them in and then aligning it with the audio. And
right.
that's typically my workflow. And it was with 3 file browsers up, it was so hard to keep up on it without
Sure.
workspaces. Like, what I like about Sway is that you can assign the workspaces to a specific monitor and then be done with it.
Mm, mm,
So, like, I have one monitor here, which is my file browser monitor, and it's also my Commodore 64 monitor when I'm, doing footage capture from it. So
mhm,
I can just
mhm,
hit a couple of buttons to change it, but because Sway is smart enough to know I don't send this workspace to any other monitor. It just kind of hangs it in limbo. So I don't lose the window placement.
mhm,
Any other, like, KD Plasma, GNOME, um, Mate, like, when I turn off the monitor in that way, it
mm.
moves the windows and I lose where everything was.
Right.
Because Sway is so manual, it does not move it, and that control over it has made it so I'm not feeling like I need to pull out a 3rd monitor for the Commodore 64, and
Mhm,
that little thing is just such a teeny little difference, but it's super helpful for me.
mhm. I found a workflow that works for me now, but it was very much a matter of like trial and error to really
Sure.
make it fit. And if you've got something that like I always tell people, like if you like a floating environment, if you like a tiling, I don't like what you
Yeah,
use, but like I like to experiment with different things and see if they improve it, if they make it worse, and just try things out. And
absolutely.
at the end of the day, you can just try it out. If you don't like it, you can just stop using it. You don't
Mhm.
have to be committed to it.
It's one of the things I love about distros, like Arch,
Mm,
Debian, and to a certain extent Ubuntu, but it's a little different. Like your Gen 2, like you can the desktop environment is uncoupled from the distro.
NixOS, just so you guys can comment about NixOS.
So, yeah, I forgot that one. But I like having that decoupling because like, Mint as the archetype of doing it the other way around.
Mm,
Um, when the desktop environment and the distro are so tuned together,
mhm,
I think it creates a it's hard to change something,
mm,
if that makes sense. It's hard to like when I was on Pop OS, pulling in, switching to KDE Plasma was like awkward and weird.
right.
And it's I find that I'm just increasingly drawn to the distro is just a base and the desktop environment. Like I don't distro hop really anymore. I desktop environment hop.
Sure.
And I think that that's good. Like I'm fine with that. I still have a Fedora machine running upstairs and an Arch machine
Mhm,
and
mhm,
like cuz I have to test stuff. But um at the end of the day, it's like it's all just kind of window dressing is the part that I really care about.
mhm, mhm.
Like do I care if I'm using apt or Pac-Man? No, probably not. Like I might have opinions about performance,
Mm,
but in the modern era do I care? What do I care if something is 3 seconds slower than
mhm.
something else when I'm, sitting there, like, taking a drink while I do that? Like, who cares?
The funniest discussions I see are people that complain about the fact that the Gen 2 package manager is written in Python. Like, that's the part of the Gen 2 package manager that is your point that's going to slow you down, not the compiling the software, not downloading the software. No, it's written in Python. That's your
Yep.
problem.
It's a certain like, I'd call it myopic, but I think that's, insulting to people with myopathy.
Mm, mm,
Like, I don't understand that concept. It's like, people talk about like, I did my video recently where I talked about my Linux video workflow, and
mm.
I talked about how Kdenlive doesn't have GPU rendering that's not experimental. They have experimental GPU
It's,
rendering, but they
yeah.
yeah, exactly. Um, and people were like, "It's insulting that Kdenlive doesn't have this. It must take so much longer for your CPU to render." And it's like, well, one, not really, but two, when I hit render, I don't sit and just stare at it. Like I go do other things with my life. Like, what
Mhm,
do I care if it takes 10 minutes longer to render? Like, even if it took 10 minutes shorter, I'm not just gonna sit and stare at it while I wait for it to render. I'm
mm,
gonna go, like, get some laundry done. I'm gonna go
mm,
do
mm,
like, there's other thing like, this isn't active time for me. What do I care?
mhm,
And and nobody's had a good answer for that. It's like, just because something doesn't exist on paper that somebody else has doesn't mean it's better. Plus, for systems where they do GPU render, there are glitches and other issues, like I know people who use Resolve who've had to re-render the same project 3, 4 times because they're having, like, GPU bugs, and that's on Windows.
mm.
Like, that's not even a Linux thing, that's a Windows thing. It's like, the CPU has been remarkably consistent for me,
Yeah.
and I've upgraded my system, I think, twice now CPU-wise since I started the channel,
Mm,
and, like, CPU rendering's never been a bottleneck that I can actually imagine. Do I wish there was more it could take advantage of? I mean, probably, but more to do with scrubbing
mm.
than anything else. I'd love scrubbing to be GPU
Mhm,
accelerated.
mhm, mhm.
Um, but even that's kind of a minor, like, who cares? Like, it's we're getting into such little minuscule details that, like, at the end of the day, I'm just here to make art.
Well, for me, what I do is because I tend to work on multiple videos at once, I will
Mhm.
render one out, and then I just start editing the next one.
Sure,
And then
absolutely.
when that one's rendered, then I will start working on the transcript for that video, and I just
Yep.
have this chain of things that just flow into each other, and when that's done, I'll probably go work on my thumbnails, right? Like,
Right.
I have other things I can do.
Yeah. People forget that, and it's like, but you don't in real life, like
Mm,
when you're making food in the kitchen, you typically work on multiple parts at the same
mm,
time. Like if you're making dinner, you don't just like, I'm just going to cook the main course and every side is going to have to wait until the main course is finished.
mhm,
Then by the time you actually finish everything, the main course is cold. Like people kind of multitask,
mm.
and I think we understand that in the real world, but when we talk about our computers, we forget that like this is just a part of the process,
Well, computers are
like
so fast now that, if you think back to like, um let's think back on like universities in like the 70s that were like, you do some big math project and it's going to take 3 hours to finish it. So like you just go do some other thing, right? Like
yes,
computers now are so fast that when something isn't fast, people don't really know what to do with that time.
absolutely. No, it's you just go online more. You
Mhm.
you go on social media and you wait.
Mhm, mhm,
Um, like people, when we talk about time wasters, it's like, what do I care about GPU rendering when like Mastodon's right there?
mhm, mhm,
Like I know where the bottleneck is. it's it's my Mastodon account. That's the
mhm,
bottleneck. Like there's not a bottleneck somewhere else. But no, like when my computer's rendering, I'm often like working on the thumbnail.
mm, mm,
Like that's a good example of it. Like I can go take those photos or go do the thing while the rendering is happening. And I can count on one hand the amount of times that I've had a problem with the render. And usually it was something I did,
yeah.
like is some flag I tried that didn't work, and it's like, "Oh, I gotta redo it."
Oftentimes it's
Um,
that I didn't check it and I left a cut in that shouldn't have been there.
yep, or
I
I'll
just
do,
repeat the same words. I'm like, "Oh, I screwed that up. Do it again."
I'll render a small portion of the video in, like, 1280 to make a small file so I can share it on, like, through Matrix or
Mm.
Mastodon or something, so I'm not sending a big 4K file, and I'll forget that I checked that box.
Yeah,
And I'll
yeah.
render the entire video, and it takes longer because it has to rescale it too, so it's like, "Why it's taking a little longer today?" And then I get the file, and it looks like a potato, and it's like, "Oh, that's why. I
Mhm.
guess I gotta redo this." But that's my problem.
Yeah.
That's not that problem would exist even with GPU rendering.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah. Yeah, GPU's not gonna save you from your own incompetence.
Well, that's not what the AI companies tell me.
That's true. Well, look, Nvidia's bottom margin is very, very tied to how many AI companies they can convince to buy thousands of GPUs.
Sure. That's exactly it.
If you wanna be very very worried about the direction things are going, look up the revenue charts from Nvidia and look at the graph for data center and AI. It's just like, woo.
Yep. I keep thinking about, all the like, right now, there's this whole thing happening here in Minnesota about a, farm that's
Mm,
gonna be built, in Southern Minnesota for AI stuff, and it's like there's gonna be a power generation thing. There's gonna be obviously, like, they're gonna need cooling, and they're
mm,
gonna
mm,
need like, there's gonna be environmental stuff, and that's its own thing, which obviously I have concerns about because it's my neck of the woods, and, like, maybe we should be concerned about that.
mm,
But beyond that aspect of it, it's like we're giving tax breaks to a company that's gonna end up, like, eliminating jobs because of it. And it's like,
mm,
maybe that's the wrong approach? I don't know. Like, maybe
mhm,
instead of doing this thing, we should, like I mean, put your thing in, but, like, how are you contributing to the jobs you're about to take away from Minnesotans? Like,
Right, right, right.
but nobody listens to me unless I'm explaining it.
Well, we could probably just keep going forever, but we probably should end this off at some point. We have gone a bit over 2 hours now.
No, this has been a lot of fun. I very much appreciated the chat. I'm sorry it took so long for us to
No,
actually
no,
do
it's
one of
fine. It's
these.
totally fine.
Yeah, I'm happy to do another one anytime. So just let me know. If you start now, maybe in 2 years we'll do a follow-up episode.
Well, assume you don't change your email address and a bunch of other things. Hopefully, it doesn't
Yes.
take 2 years.
No.
So let people know where they can find you and check your stuff out.
Let's see. On YouTube and PeerTube, I'm Veronica Explains. On PeerTube, I have a single user PeerTube instance called tinkerbetter.tube.
Mhm.
I don't know why it's not VeronicaExplains.tube. It probably should be. I need PeerTube to figure out how to port your followers, and then maybe we'll
Mhm.
talk. And then I have a website at vkc.sh, and I should blog more often, but
What is .sh? That's a country code.
it is a country I mean, to me, it means it's like bash scripting, which I thought
Oh.
was clever. I got a short URL, but, maybe it's the Seychelles. It can't be the Seychelles. Maybe it's the Seychelles.
Saint Helena, apparently.
Saint Helena, there we go.
Okay, sure.
Well, hopefully they like me paying them for my domain.
I feel like the majority of the people who are buying .sh domains are probably buying it for the same reason that you bought it.
Yes. I'm probably gonna switch to veronicaexplains.net at some point soon, just because I'm running into an issue where email,
Uh-huh.
um, I was getting the .sh was being blocked by people's emails, and it's like, okay, this is
Yeah,
gonna be frustrating.
yeah.
Like, even if it's legit or not, I gotta be done. So .net is probably gonna be the way we go. So we'll
Mhm.
see.
Yeah, that's, spinning up your own email and trying to get, what do you call it? Like, what's the word? Like,
Like
reputation.
email, yeah, reputation
Yeah.
stuff is,
I forgot
yeah.
what the exact correct term is, but that's sort of idea.
I have a .io for one of my things,
Mm.
and, it was amazing how as soon as all the news came out about, like, the potential end of the .io domain, like, immediately companies started updating their firewalls for it, and it's like, nothing's happened.
Mhm,
Like, you
mhm.
all, and it doesn't matter if it's legit that they're making a change, they're making the change, and it's impacting my email delivery. It's like, I can't win with that. So,
Yeah.
sticking with .com and .net, probably a good idea.
IO is an interesting, like, this is okay, bit of a random side tangent, but removing a country code probably wouldn't happen. It would just be shifted over to
Exactly.
someone else because um Russia has two of them that they were
Yep,
supposed to get rid of.
.su.
That they were told to get rid of. I think they USSR, they had the USSR
Yep.
one. They were told to get rid of it. Better not. No,
Nope.
not gonna do
I
that.
I I have a sneaking suspicion .io will be around for a while, but
Yeah, someone's gonna
pe
run it. Yeah.
yep, people
There's
people
way too
love
much
to,
money in it.
yeah, exactly, but people love to dream.
Mhm, mhm. Anything else you want to direct people to, or is that pretty much it?
I think that's my band has a show coming up. Can I talk
Ooh,
about my band's show?
go right ahead.
We're gonna be playing at the Vintage Computer Festival Midwest
Mhm.
in Chicago in, September, and, I think their website is VCFMW, dot let's
VCFM.
yeah, let me see if I can pull it up. VCFMW. Yeah, vcfmw.org will, talk about it. It's September 13th through the 14th in Schaumburg, Illinois.
Ooh, I don't know where that is.
It's just outside Chicago.
Okay, okay.
So, yep, and we'll be performing our, RetroTube faculty band novelty rock set. So, and you can find out more. Band has a website at thestopbits.net, and it's a lot of fun because it is. I made it in AOL Press, so it's a good time.
Nice.
90s tech.
uh, that is everything. Yes.
Yes, that's everything I have to promote. I have nothing else to promote.
Okay.
What?
My main channel is Brody Robertson. I do Linux videos there 6ish days a week. Sometimes I stream as well. I have the gaming channel that is Brody on Games. By the time this comes out, I will probably be I'll probably be playing Metal Gear Solid
Ooh,
and Yakuza 6? I don't know, maybe. Check it out, see
that'd
what's
be
over
fun.
there. I've got the React channel where I upload clips from the stream. That is Brody Robertson Reacts. And if you're watching the video version of this, you can find the audio version on basically every podcast platform. There is an RSS feed. And if you'd like to find the video, it is on YouTube at Tech Over Tea. I'll give you the final word. How do you want to sign us off?
Let's see. Consider using a Commodore 64. Like one of these. Like you use cartridges and have fun.
Yeah, that works.